Morning, you guys, it's Karen, and I thought I would come and share with you what's happened to Watson, which is he got attacked by a German Shepherd a few days ago, and it's really, I mean, to say it's not my confidence in walking him is an understatement. I'm crying every day. I'm really upset by it all. And I wanted to tell you what my plan is to kind of try and get over it, and also just tell you the whole circumstances, because I think it helps to always be aware of what's going on around you when you have a dog. And yeah, it's good to talk about it, isn't it, when something traumatic's happened, a problem shared and all that. So this was at the weekend, and I was walking Watson. Kev was at golf, and I'd already taken him to a park earlier that day, another park, and then we went to the shops. Where did we go? Oh, we went to Pets at Home to get him a new cool mat. And then I thought, right, I'm just going to stop at this other park on the way home and just see if he needs anything more, because he's a lively thing. And it's a park we've been to many, many times. It's not, it's not a bad area or anything. There's lots of dogs that we know often go there. And yeah, it was fine. Now, I should tell you that Watson is, or has been in the past, wary of German Shepherds. Ever since he was a puppy, we've no idea why. I've heard that from a lot of people, but he's just very wary of them. But we've worked really hard over the years to try and, for us not to be nervous when we're near them, because we know he's nervous. And he's got better and better over the years. There are some that he just decides he wants to bark at, and sometimes even runs away kind of as if they're doing something and they're not. I always ended up feeling sorry for all the German Shepherds. But weirdly, he seemed to be all right with white German Shepherds. And I don't know whether that's because they look a lot like his girlfriend, Lola, who is a husky poo. But he always seemed to be okay with white German Shepherds. But I don't avoid German Shepherds. They didn't make me nervous or anything like that. We got to the point where it was like, I'm sure he's fine now. So we were in the park, we had finished our walk and we were going to leave. And there is iron gates all the way around the park, other than these exits where there's just a gate-sized gap, but there isn't actually a gate, and that's where you leave the park. And so I put Watson on lead because my car was parked on the main road right at the park, and so of course I put him on lead after he'd been walking around in the park. Went through the exit, and as I was going through the exit, a car had pulled up right there at the park, opened their boot, and a white German Shepherd jumped out. I noticed it and just thought, oh, it's fine, it's a white German Shepherd, and carried on walking. But the Shepherd, as soon as it got out of the boot, ran behind us. So we were walking away at this point behind us and started barking and biting Watson. So, obviously I turned around then, I could see what was going on. Watson was screaming. It was absolutely horrific. I managed to knee the dog out the way. I wasn't kneeing him like a kick or anything. I was just using my knee to get him off. Because one hand had the lead in it and the other hand had my car keys in it. So it was all a bit sort of awkward, But he just I don't know whether it was me kneeing him or whether he was just done with that one bite. If it was one bite, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know. But he then backed off and went into the park, which we weren't that far away because we were still on the main road at that point. And I could, we were the other side of the gate. But like I said, there wasn't an actual gate that you could close. It was just iron gates within this gap. So the owners didn't do anything when the actual attack was happening, but it was so fast. They probably weren't near enough to actually do anything. And the guy had come over, but by which time it was kind of all over. And it was a couple. They were probably in their 50s or 60s from what I can remember. And the guy was very, very apologetic. He was immediately asking if Watson was all right. I had at this point bent down and was kind of hugging Watson because, like I said, he was screaming and I was trying to check him over. And the guy was apologising and saying he's never done that before. That's why he's not got a collar on. To which I said something about, you need to have a collar on. There wasn't even anything for me to grab because I couldn't have grabbed hold of the Shepherd if he didn't stop biting him because he had no collar on, And I said to the guy, you need to have a collar on. And he said, yeah, but he's never done anything like this before. That's why he's got no lead or collar on. I don't know exactly which one he said. It's all such a blur as well. And I was checking Watson's left side at the back, at his back, but at the left-hand side. And the guy went, no, he bit him on the right-hand side. So the guy had obviously seen that his dog had bitten Watson. And so I checked on the right-hand side and couldn't see anything at all. And I was just like, right, okay. Now, a lot of people at this point are saying to me I should have got their details. Did you get their details? You at least want them to pay your bills, and you need to report them, and they need to, all of this. But honestly, at this point, Watson was shaking. I didn't know if he was injured. The dog was still loose. The woman was standing near the dog at the park entrance, so that the dog could have run towards us again and attacked again. She didn't put it in the car. I suppose I could have asked him to do that, but you think of these things afterwards, I just wanted to get away from the situation. I wanted to make sure that Watson was all right. He did not need to be sitting there any longer than necessary. Check him over for injuries and, like I said, get away from the danger, So I just picked Watson up and walked across to my car, which was across the main road. I sat him on the path for a minute, checked him over, couldn't see anything, opened the door, lifted him into the car, and then I got in the car and was just sitting with Watson for a while, kind of, hugging him, trying to reassure him. And I was thinking, well, he doesn't really like hugs, so I'm not sure what else I can do. I tried to give him a treat. He wasn't taking a treat. So I phoned my husband, who was on the golf course, and he said, right, he was leaving, he was coming straight home. He came straight home and checked Watson over, couldn't see anything. And so we thought, I thought to myself, actually, Kev's going to be thinking I'm just overreacting, but he was actually, I knew he'd been attacked, properly attacked, because he's been nearly attacked like that before and he's been shaky, but I don't know, there was something different. He just wasn't acting right while he was here in the evening. We didn't notice that until he woke up, because when we came in, like I said, Kev checked him over and then he just went to sleep. But then when he woke up a few hours later, so it was late afternoon, I was at the park, and he woke up a few hours later, he didn't seem to want to move. So I lifted him up and put him on the sofa, and he just sort of lay there in the position I had put him in. And I thought, that's really quite odd. And Kev was sitting next to him saying, right, okay, he's maybe just, shocked. We looked up shock, and he didn't have shock because his gums were still red and his breathing was okay at that point. And so he's maybe just a bit shocked by it all, But then Kev was stroking him and he could feel blood. So we immediately looked closer and could see that actually there was a hole in his side. So we called a taxi, because we both had a drink at this point, because by this time it was like 7:30, I think, and we both just had one drink, but you just never know, don't want to drive with that, do you? And went to the emergency vet. And Watson has a hole through his skin and into his muscle as well. It's ripped the muscle. He's got 2 staples on the outside of his skin. So it was pretty horrendous sitting in the vets. There was, lots of stuff happening to other animals, which worries me as well. And then Watson, and it was just awful. So since then, Watson is recovering really, really well. So that happened on Saturday. Today is Tuesday. Sunday, we went for a family walk, and because he's fine walking, and I'd asked the vet, is he all right to go back to the walker and walk and whatnot? And she said, absolutely, yes. But today's the first day I've put him with the walker. Yesterday, we just wanted to keep him home and see how he was, because he's on tramadol, and antibiotics, and you don't know if it would completely knock him out, and he might not want to walk too much. Unlikely, knowing Watson. And he was fine walking. So Sunday we went for a walk, but it just wasn't pleasant because I was just a wreck. Watson was fine. He was wanting to go up to dogs and say hello. He was going up to dogs and saying hello, but I was having to sort of hang back because I was really nervous. We had to avoid big dogs. If I saw any big dogs off lead, which of course there was 2 German Shepherds off lead that seemed to appear everywhere we went. We were trying to go different ways to them, but they seemed to appear everywhere we went. And I don't know how I wasn't getting on Kev's nerves, but he ended up saying, this is ridiculous, we need to go home. So we couldn't get to the bit that we really wanted to walk at, because then just as we got there, the German Shepherds were going to be there. And I was saying, it's not that I'm never going to want to be near a German Shepherd again, but it was the day after it happened. And I didn't know how Watson was going to be with that particular type of dog. In a way, I think it would be good for him to have an interaction with them. But I didn't know those dogs, and they were off lead. And so to me, there was a very real danger because of what had happened the day before. And I said, if nothing else, with me being there, being so anxious and walking up to the dogs, that Watson would have picked up on that. So that alone was why we needed to avoid them. That's what I was trying to explain to Kev. Now, Kev would have been all right going off with him, and maybe if I wasn't there and he'd have told me about it afterwards, I would have been okay. I don't know, but it just wasn't the right thing to do. And I couldn't have hung back because Watson doesn't like it when we split up when we're out walking, so yeah, it was just ridiculous, and we had to come home. So Kev has walked him ever since. I did walk him last night for his tea time walk, but it's literally 10 minutes around the block, and I was just very vigilant. But yeah, I've been crying this morning. I was crying yesterday. I think it just all hit me yesterday. And I didn't sleep the night before. I didn't sleep on Saturday, Sunday night, just thinking, how did I not manage to keep my boy safe? And how am I going to keep him safe in the future? Because, you know, as I said to my friend, it'd almost be better if I'd have had suspicions about the owners, because there was another time recently where we were at on a walk, and I saw this massive American bulldog. And the first thing I do is look at the owners. And the owners of this bulldog were sitting on a bench drunk in the middle of the day. And they just were clearly not paying any attention to the dog. And it also didn't have a collar. And it was going to come over to us. And I was really scared. That to me was a really scary situation. To me, that was a dangerous situation. But with this situation, the couple didn't, you know, they looked like your average middle-aged couple. The dog didn't look aggressive. They didn't look aggressive. You know, there just wasn't anything other than the fact that he didn't have a collar on that was troublesome. And I wouldn't have even noticed that. So if I'd have seen them whilst walking in the park, I probably wouldn't have avoided them, because like I said, there was nothing that you could see that would give you any indication of what was going to happen. I don't know why he basically chased us. You know, it was only a small distance, but he came up behind us. He obviously, for whatever reason, was so worked up in the car. This is what Kev was saying, and I think that's true. So worked up and excited that as soon as they let that boot open, he was like, got out and saw Watson, and for some reason was just like, I don't like you, I'm going to bite you. And then he went into the park, you know. So I can't see any way that I could have avoided it. Because some people have said, you know, I've put it on social media, and some people have left comments saying, oh, I always avoid dogs like that. Like what? I mean, I can't avoid every single dog, and I was leaving the park and walking away from the park. I had to go out of that exit, you know, I suppose. And even by the time I'd seen it, it would have been too late anyway. If I'd have walked back into the park, he might have done the same thing, but in the park. So I don't think there's any way I could have avoided that, because I will, of course, avoid any situation that I think looks dangerous. But now, like I said, because that didn't seem dangerous, I don't know what it is I've got to avoid. It's like, do I avoid all off-lead dogs? Because that's not really possible. Somebody said, one of the comments on Instagram was, that's why I don't like dog parks. And I thought, oh, she's from America, because we don't have dog parks here in the UK. Every green space is open to everyone, pretty much, apart from like there's places like the botanical gardens where you can't take dogs. But if there's just parks, and people go there and dogs go there, and that's the way it is. You know, there isn't dog parks, places that are just for dogs. There's nothing like that. I've never heard of a dog park in the UK, other than obviously you can go to a dog walker and they do daycare and that kind of thing. So that was Sunday. I hadn't walked him since. I walked him yesterday, but now I don't know how to go forward and enjoy my walks with him. I really don't. So I had asked anybody on social media if they'd had any experience with this, or if they had any suggestions, etc. And somebody had mentioned a dog trainer that they had gone to that had helped them with a similar situation. So I got in touch with this dog trainer, and God love her, she is going to do a Zoom call with me tomorrow morning, because she's not in my area. She's way down south and I'm up north, you know, so she's going to do a Zoom call with me tomorrow morning and try and give me some advice as to how I can get my confidence back in walking Watson. For me, it's all about having a plan. I was trying to say that to Kevin. We were out for a walk on Sunday, and we were trying to get to this particular bit that we wanted to walk at. I said to him, well, if we have a plan about what to do if they do walk towards us, I'll be all right. Like, if the plan is you pick him up, if they look like they're coming too close, but the thing is, that's not healthy. Picking him up when there's dogs coming in, who's not healthy, and that's just going to make him anxious, you know. So that's why we decided to go home. But I think for me, I need to have a plan for when I go out. And so my plan is just to be vigilant and look every direction before I move a muscle, so that I feel confident, and I'm confident that I can't see any dogs in the future, and I will actively, for now, avoid dogs off lead. He'll be with dogs off lead in his daycare. He'll be with dogs off lead when he goes out with Kev. But for me, I'm going to make sure I avoid off-lead dogs unless I know them or can be 100% sure, you know, that nothing's going to happen. That's one thing I'm doing. The other thing I've done is I've ordered this spray it's a police supply company, and I've read all the reviews on this and checked it out. I'm going to ask the dog trainer about it as well. because it's not something I'd ever heard of before. I normally carry a pet corrector spray, thinking if ever there was a fight, I would use that, because I've been nervous ever since the Staffy incident. But this one, there's a lot of reviews saying that it has actually worked for them, and it's not harmful to dogs at all. It's not like a pet corrector spray necessarily. It's actually a dog deterrent that the police use, where there's a mist of some kind of odor that is in their face that they just don't want to be near. And it obviously switches their brain to another level, and they just run away. So I'm going to get that, and I'm going to have that on my handbag. I don't think I'll have it forever, because it's like with that pet corrector spray. I had it for the first little while after the Staffy incident, and then kind of forgot it was there. And somebody had said that they had one and they sprayed any dogs that come near them. Well, I'm obviously not going to do that. I think that's the scariest thing to me. The scariest thing is that you can't protect your dog from an attack until an attack has actually started, and then it's too late. They've been attacked, and you know, then you've got the job of hopefully getting the dog off them and hoping there's not been too much injury mentally and physically caused. But you can't do anything, even if the dog looks like it's going to attack, which, you know, most of us wouldn't know anyway. I think I knew that Staffy was going to attack. But even there, I think if I'd have sprayed that Staffy, the owner would have probably done something to me, you know, God knows what, but he certainly wouldn't have been happy. And I just don't think you can go around doing that, because he didn't attack him in the end, you know, so nothing happened. And so I don't think you can just go around spraying dogs. So I just need to kind of be more aware. And if I see a dog and I think there's a danger, I have my hand on it so that I could maybe stop any attack as soon as possible, which is what happened with the German Shepherd. But like I said, I think that German Shepherd just wanted a bite and then away, and that was him kind of done. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's my current plan. I'll see what this trainer's got to say tomorrow morning. I'm really grateful for her arranging this for me, and happy to hear any other suggestions you guys have. Somebody said about avoiding the park, that particular park, but it's not a park that we go to very often anyway. But I'm not scared of meeting that particular dog again. I'm now scared of every off-lead dog. And maybe even every on-lead dog if we're near them. You know, I'm just scared of him being hurt. I'm just like, how can I protect him? You know, Watson's beaten cancer twice, as you guys know. He's had, you know, been in hospital with his stomach. He's got inflammatory bowel disease. He's got allergies. We've done everything in our power to make his life good. And so for this to happen is just, it breaks my heart. And when, you know, I'm having my crying sessions like this morning and yesterday, it's just like, it's so unfair. It's basically what I think is just, it's so unfair that this has happened. It's one of those things that just happens and it could not have been prevented, but it's so unfair that it's happened to him. And I wish it had been me that got bitten, not him. And I wish I knew, it's more the worry, like I wish I knew that I could protect him. I want to go on lovely walks with him, laugh at him running, doing zoomies, and not be scared that he's not right by me so that I can't protect, you know, it's sad that it's kind of spoiled everything. And I know with time it will get better, obviously. Anyway, so I have reported it because, like I said, a lot of people were telling me off for not reporting it and not getting the person's details. So I've reported it to the dog warden, and they've got back in touch this morning and are asking me for more details and if I've got any descriptions. They're going to go to the park at the exact time that I told them it happened, because they said, you know, if it is a rare breed, a white Alsatian is not something you commonly see, and it was with a middle-aged couple, and so they should be able to see them if they go to the park every day at that time. And I got a feeling that they were regulars there, you know, it was definitely their dog, and I felt like they were there regularly. So the reason that because I thought when people were saying to report it, I thought, well, what's the point? And I had asked the vet, the emergency vet, I had said to them, should I report this and who should I report it to? You know, the police, SSPCA, I didn't know who to report it to. And she said, oh no, there's no point because nothing will get done, because the only thing they're breaking the law on is not having a collar on the dog. The dog biting Watson is not actually breaking the law. It's not actually illegal, but it is something that it makes the dog out of control, and the dog warden can talk to them. But I don't know that they can enforce anything, because I think the dog should have a muzzle on, and I think that they should take the dog to the vet to get the dog checked out, because if it's true what they say that it's never happened before, because a lot of people don't think that was genuine, that they think it probably has happened before. I'm not sure, because there always has to be a first time, and the guy seemed genuinely apologetic and genuinely shocked that his dog had done that. So if it's never happened before, he needs to go take the dog to the vet and make sure there's nothing wrong with the dog, because if that's unusual behaviour, you know, there might be something going on there. And also think about having a muzzle on, and at the very least a collar and a lead, you know, a collar, a lead and a muzzle. But you think if somebody's, I don't know how old the dog was. I don't think it was old at all, because it sprang out of the back of the boot and it was bouncing about, and, you know, it was clearly didn't have any joint problems and wasn't elderly. But for however long they've been going out without a collar, without so much as a collar, it would be a very big change for them to put a muzzle on a dog, you know, on top of a collar and lead. So I can't see them doing that, but we'll see. I was tempted to go to the park yesterday. I had a physio appointment. I've got a shoulder problem and it's not too far from the park. And Watson was at home with Kev. Kev was working from home. And so I was tempted to go to the park myself and see if I could find them and just tell them, like, because like I said, the guy seemed genuinely nice and genuinely concerned and apologetic, and I wanted to say to him, just so you know, there was actually a bite. I think he knew that anyway, but you couldn't see it at the time because of all Watson's fur. But I wanted to say to him, you know, there was a bite, Watson was injured, and so you need to do something now. But I just thought, you know, why am I going to put myself through that trauma? Like let's see if the dog warden can find something. Now, the dog warden hasn't said that I need to contact the police. I might reply and actually ask them. I didn't expect a reply from them, to be honest. There's just an email address you send to, but I've got the name of a person that's dealing with the case and an incident number and all of that. And it's a very nice email, actually, saying, you know, I'm sorry this happened, and it can be very distressing and all of that. So yeah, that's kind of the end of the story so far. Like I said, I'm going to do this Zoom call tomorrow. I've never done a Zoom call in my life, so I've done like messenger calls or Skype calls, you know, but I'll try and figure out the Zoom call, and hopefully that will help me, and hopefully it will be behind us soon. He's got to have his staples in for 10 days, so I've got an appointment a week today at the vet to get the staples removed. But like I said, he's allowed to go walking and whatnot. So his walker has taken him. They've kind of changed the group around. My walker has many groups of dogs. So there's many different walkers, and then there's one woman that owns it. And so she's not put the dogs that like to play with Watson on that route. So he's not going to be playing. He's just going to be bimbling around, you know. And so hopefully he'll be fine. If he is, I can put him in again tomorrow. I'll need to walk in this afternoon. I'll just walk him locally around here. Not that gives me any confidence in itself, because there's lots of places here that dogs can just appear, and a lot of people have their dogs off lead around here, even though it's not a main road, but it's, you know, a lot of cars come up and down here because there's a lot of flats on this road. A lot of people live here, but so yeah, wish me luck. Let me know if you've got any advices on how I can stop myself being upset, because I think, you know, you just have to cry it out now and then, don't you? So, you know, I had a cry this morning, I had a cry yesterday, whatever it takes. That is just, I'll have a cry and then I'll get better. Watson didn't want to be near me this morning because he's been like that before when I've been crying. He's just like, no, get your nervous energy away from me, you know. But it's more about, I want to, like I said, get my confidence back in walking with him so that he doesn't then pick up any anxiety from me. So yeah, thank you for listening. Let me know of your experiences and what you did to get over it, and how your dog was your dog okay? Because like I said, Watson seems to be absolutely fine. I can't remember if I even told you that, but he was like happily going up to dogs and doesn't seem at all fazed by it, even though he was shaking for hours afterwards. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you again soon.